The sun rose slowly over the palace gates on a cold December morning. The sky was gray, and the air felt thick with silence. Inside the palace walls, everything seemed perfect, but perfect things often hide the darkest secrets.
Calm down.
Captain Marcus Sterling had been a royal guard for 15 years. He was tall, strong, and serious. He never smiled much, and he never spoke unless he had to. His job was simple: protect the royal family. That was all. That was everything. That morning, Marcus walked through the long palace hallways, as he did every day. His shoes made soft sounds on the marble floor. The paintings of old kings and queens watched him pass. He had walked these halls 10,000 times, maybe more. But today felt different. He didn't know why. His body could feel it. Something was wrong. The first sign came at 8:47 in the morning. Marcus was standing outside the royal nursery, as was his duty. The nursery was where young Prince Edward, the 5-year-old son of the crown prince, spent his mornings. The room was bright and warm. Toys lay on soft rugs. Pictures of animals hung on the walls. It was a happy place. Inside, the queen was visiting. This was not unusual. Queens often visited young princes. But today, something was strange about her visit. "Give me the boy," Marcus heard through the thick wooden door. The voice was sharp. It cut like a knife. Marcus had never heard that voice before. It was not the voice of a grandmother. It was something else. Something cold. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should wait for—" A younger woman's voice spoke softly. This was Lady Catherine, the prince's nursemaid. She had worked at the palace for 4 years. She was kind and gentle. "I said, give me the boy, now." The queen's voice again, louder this time. Marcus felt his hand move to his side. This was his training. When danger appeared, his body knew what to do, even before his mind understood. He opened the door quickly and silently. What he saw made his heart stop for one moment. The queen was standing very close to Prince Edward. The boy was small, so very small. He had his mother's eyes and his father's dark hair. He was holding a toy soldier in his small hand. The queen's hands were reaching toward him, but not in a gentle way. Her fingers were stiff and tight. Her face was angry, a face Marcus had never seen before. "Your Majesty," Marcus said quietly. He stepped into the room. "The prince has an appointment with the music teacher in 5 minutes." This was a lie. There was no appointment, but lies sometimes save lives. The queen's head turned slowly toward Marcus. Her eyes were like ice. "This does not concern you, Captain." "It concerns me when the prince's schedule requires his attention," Marcus said. His voice was calm, but his mind was racing. Something was very wrong. The air in the room felt dangerous. Prince Edward looked up at Marcus. The boy's eyes were large and confused. He didn't understand what was happening. This was good. This meant he was not afraid. "Yet, come, Prince Edward," Marcus said gently, walking toward the boy. "The music teacher is waiting." The queen stepped forward. She was blocking the path. "Step aside," she said to Marcus. "I cannot do that, Your Majesty." The room became very quiet. Even the toys on the floor seemed to stop moving. Lady Catherine was standing in the corner, her hand over her mouth. She was frightened. The queen's face turned red. Anger moved across her features like a storm moving across the sky. "You forget your place, Captain." "No, Your Majesty," Marcus said. "I remember my place very well. My place is to protect this child." "This child," the queen repeated, "is not your concern. Every member of the royal family is my concern. That is my duty. That is my oath." Marcus took another step forward. He was now between the queen and Prince Edward. His body was like a wall. The queen could not reach the boy without going through him first. The queen stared at Marcus. Her hands were still raised. Her breathing was quick and angry. For a long moment, nothing happened. The world seemed to hold its breath. Then, slowly, the queen's hands fell to her sides. "This is not finished, Captain Sterling," she said quietly. But her quiet voice was somehow more frightening than her loud voice had been. She turned and walked toward the door. As she passed Marcus, she stopped for just 1 second. "You have made a very big mistake today." A mistake that will cost you everything. Then she was gone. The door closed behind her. Marcus stood very still. His heart was beating very fast. Prince Edward tugged on his uniform. "Captain Marcus? Is everything okay?" the boy asked. Marcus looked down at the small prince. He saw innocence. He saw childhood. He saw a life that needed to be protected. "Yes, young sir," Marcus said softly. "Everything is okay. You are safe." But inside, Marcus knew the truth. Everything was not okay. He had just stepped into something dark and dangerous. He had just made a choice that would change his life forever. And he had just learned that danger sometimes wears a crown. Outside the nursery window, the gray sky grew darker. The palace seemed to wait. And somewhere in the halls, plans were being made, plans that would shake the entire kingdom. Captain Marcus Sterling had no idea what was coming next, but he was ready. The palace was quiet that night. Darkness covered everything like a black blanket. But inside the stone walls, people were awake. People were talking. People were afraid. Captain Marcus Sterling sat in his small room at the palace. His room was plain and simple: a bed, a desk, a chair, and a window that looked out over the gardens. He had lived in this room for 10 years. It was his home, but tonight it felt like a prison. He could not stop thinking about what happened in the nursery. The Queen's angry face, her reaching hands, her cold voice saying, "You have made a very big mistake." Marcus had heard many stories about the Queen over the years. Other guards talked about her in whispers. They said she was not like other grandmothers. They said she was difficult and angry. They said she wanted things her way. Always. But Marcus had never seen this side of her before. He had never seen her like this, violent and desperate. What did she want with Prince Edward? A knock came at his door. Marcus stood up quickly. His hand moved to his side, as it always did when something surprised him. His military training never left his body. "Come in," he said. The door opened. It was not a guard. It was not a palace worker. It was Lord James Whitmore, the king's chief advisor. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore expensive dark clothes. His face looked worried. "Captain Sterling," Lord Whitmore said, closing the door behind him. "We need to talk." "Yes, sir," Marcus said. "Sit down, please." Both men sat. The room became very quiet. Outside, the winter wind moved through the palace gardens. "I have heard about what happened in the nursery this morning," Lord Whitmore said quietly. Marcus felt his body become tight. "How did you know?" "I know many things, Captain. It is my job to know things." Lord Whitmore leaned forward. "The question is, what do you know?" "I know that the Queen was upset. I know that she was reaching for Prince Edward in a way that seemed wrong." Lord Whitmore closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them again, they looked even more tired. "You have seen something very few people are allowed to see, Captain Sterling. You have seen the truth behind the palace walls." "What truth?" Marcus asked. "The truth that power can break a person. The truth that even those we respect can become twisted and dark." Lord Whitmore stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the dark gardens. "The Queen has been sick," he said. "Not sick in her body, but sick in her mind. It began 2 years ago. Slowly at first. A forgotten name. An angry word. A strange request. But it has grown worse and worse." "Sick?" Marcus said. "Yes. The doctors have a word for it. They say her mind is breaking. Her thoughts are becoming confused and angry. She sees danger where there is no danger. She sees enemies everywhere." Lord Whitmore turned back to Marcus. "And a month ago, she became convinced that Prince Edward is not really who he is." Marcus didn't understand. "What do you mean?" "She believed that the boy is not the true prince. She believes he is an imposter. She believes the royal family is being tricked. And she believes—" Lord Whitmore paused. "She believes that she must stop him. She believes she must save the family from this danger that only she can see." The words hung in the air between them. "That's not true," Marcus said. "Prince Edward is the true prince. Everyone knows." "Yes," Lord Whitmore interrupted. "Everyone knows. Everyone except the queen. In her mind, everyone is lying to her. Everyone is part of the conspiracy. Everyone except her. Marcus thought about what he had seen. The queen's desperate hands. The way she looked at the boy, not with love, but with fear and anger. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Because you are in danger now, Captain. The queen knows you stopped her. She knows you protected the boy. In her mind, this makes you part of the conspiracy too. This makes you an enemy. Marcus stood up. He walked to his own window and looked at the dark gardens. What should I do? That is your choice, Lord Whitmore said. But I must tell you the truth. The king does not know what I am telling you. The crown prince does not know. Very few people know how sick the queen has become. We have kept it secret to protect the family's image, to protect the kingdom. But secrets have a cost, Captain. They have a very high cost. If the king doesn't know, why are you telling me? Because I believe you are a good man. Because I believe you will do the right thing. And because I think you deserve to understand what you are walking into. Lord Whitmore moved toward the door. The queen will try to get close to Prince Edward again. She will try many times. And each time, she will blame you for stopping her. Each time, she will grow more angry. What happens then? Marcus asked. Then she will do something desperate. And when she does, there will be consequences for everyone. For her, for the family, for the kingdom, and for you, Captain Sterling. Lord Whitmore reached the door. He stopped and looked back at Marcus. I came here tonight to give you a choice. You can report what you saw to the king. You can tell him about the queen's behavior. This might save Prince Edward, but it will destroy the royal family. The newspapers will find out. The people will learn that the queen is sick. The crown will be damaged forever. Marcus's mind was racing. Or you can stay silent. You can continue to protect Prince Edward in secret. You can watch the queen carefully and stop her whenever she tries to hurt the boy. You can suffer in silence, knowing the truth but unable to tell anyone. And if I stay silent, how long does this continue? Until someone breaks, Lord Whitmore said. Someone always breaks, Captain. The only question is, who will it be? Then Lord Whitmore was gone. Marcus stood alone in his room. The dark gardens lay outside his window. Somewhere in the palace, Prince Edward was sleeping, safe in his bed. Somewhere else, the queen was awake, thinking her dark thoughts. And Captain Marcus Sterling had to choose between truth and silence, between the kingdom and the child, between everything he had ever believed in. 3 days passed, 3 days of silence, 3 days of waiting, 3 days of fear. Captain Marcus Sterling did his job as he always did. He walked the palace halls. He stood at the doors. He watched and protected. But inside his mind, a war was happening. A battle between what was right and what was safe. Lord Whitmore's words kept returning to him like unwanted visitors. Someone always breaks. The only question is, who will it be? On the third night, Marcus made a decision. He would tell the king the truth. He would report what happened in the nursery. He would tell about the queen's sickness, about her strange beliefs, about her dangerous actions toward Prince Edward. It was the right thing to do. It had to be. The next morning, Marcus requested a meeting with the king. He was nervous. His hands were sweating. But he was certain this was the right path. He had sworn an oath to protect the royal family. The family could not be protected if he kept silent about danger, even if that danger came from the queen herself. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Marcus was called to the king's private study. The study was large and beautiful. Leather books covered the walls. Sunlight came through tall windows. The king sat behind a wooden desk that was older than anyone alive. He looked tired. Kings, Marcus had learned, were always tired. Captain Sterling, the king said, I understand you have something important to tell me. Marcus took a breath. This was the moment. This was the point where everything would change. Your Majesty, I must report an incident that occurred in the royal nursery 3 days ago. I witnessed behavior from... The study door opened. Lord Whitmore entered quickly. His face was pale. He looked frightened. Your Majesty, Lord Whitmore said urgently, we have a problem. The queen has left the palace. The king stood up. What do you mean she has left? No one has seen her since early this morning. She did not attend breakfast. Her rooms are empty. She has taken her car. The guards at the gate say she drove out at 6 o'clock. The king's face changed. Fear moved across his features like a shadow. Where would she go? The king asked. We don't know, sir, but... Lord Whitmore paused. He looked at Marcus. Then he looked back at the king. But the crown prince is at the summer house with Prince Edward. They left yesterday for a short holiday. They are alone except for the nursemaid and 2 guards. The king's face went white. Call the summer house, the king commanded. Now. Do it now. A palace worker ran to the telephone on the desk. She dialed quickly. Her hands were shaking. Everyone in the room could see it. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. No one answered. Try again, the king said. The worker dialed again. Same result. Nothing but ringing. No voice. No answer. Marcus felt his heart begin to beat very fast. Something terrible was happening. He could feel it in his body. The air in the room had changed. It had become thick and heavy, like the air before a storm. How far is the summer house? The king asked. 45 minutes by car, Lord Whitmore said, if she drove there straight from the palace. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Get me a car, the king said. Get me guards. Get me everything. We leave now. Your Majesty, perhaps we should call the local police first, Lord Whitmore began. No, the king said sharply. If this becomes public, if the newspapers find out, if people start asking questions, no, we handle this ourselves. This is a family matter. Marcus stood, watching all of this. His mind was working very fast. He understood now. The queen hadn't gone to hurt Prince Edward immediately. She had gone to the summer house to be alone with him. She had chosen a place where there would be fewer guards, fewer people, fewer witnesses. Your Majesty, Marcus said quietly, I must tell you something about the queen. Not now, Captain, the king interrupted. We'll talk later. Right now I need to move. The king was already walking toward the door. Guards appeared from nowhere. They moved quickly. Everything became a blur of motion and fear. Marcus stood alone in the study. He could walk away. He could say nothing. He could pretend he didn't know what was happening. He could let the king handle it, or he could act. Marcus made his choice in a single moment. He took off his formal guard jacket and threw it on the desk. He ran toward the palace garage where the cars were kept. The head of security, Colonel Davis, was already preparing vehicles. Colonel, Marcus said, I'm coming with you. You're off-duty, Captain, Colonel Davis said. Not anymore, Marcus replied. This is different. This is not about duty. This is about a child. Colonel Davis looked at Marcus for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get in the car. 30 seconds later, Marcus was in the back seat of a black car, racing to the palace gates and toward the summer house. The car moved very fast. The driver pushed the engine to its limit. The world outside the windows became a blur of trees and sky. Marcus sat in the back, his hands locked together. He was thinking about Prince Edward. The boy was 5 years old. He had done nothing wrong. He was innocent. And somewhere, in a house 45 minutes away, something terrible might be happening to him. Faster, Marcus said to the driver. We're going as fast as we can, the driver replied. But it didn't feel fast enough. Nothing would ever feel fast enough. The car turned a corner. The summer house was getting closer. In 10 minutes, maybe 15, they would arrive. They would know what had happened. They would know if they were too late. And Captain Marcus Sterling would learn whether his choices had saved a life or failed to prevent a tragedy. The car stopped suddenly. They had arrived at the summer house. It was a beautiful place, a large white building with stone walls and green gardens all around it. The house sat on a hill, overlooking a valley filled with trees. In the sunshine, it looked peaceful and perfect. But today, it looked like a place where something bad was about to happen. Or perhaps something bad was already happening. Marcus jumped out of the car before it even stopped moving completely. Colonel Davis was right behind him. Two other guards followed. They moved toward the front door quickly and quietly. Their hands were ready. Their eyes were alert. They were trained for danger, and danger was waiting somewhere in this house. The front door was unlocked. This was strange. A door to a royal residence should never be unlocked. Someone had opened it. Someone had entered. Someone was inside. Marcus pushed the door open gently. He stepped into the hall. "Hello," he called out. "Royal Guard. Announce yourselves." Silence answered him. The house felt empty, but Marcus knew it wasn't. He could feel something. A presence, a darkness, a sickness hanging in the air like fog. Colonel Davis pointed toward the stairs. They moved upward slowly, carefully. Each step was quiet. Each movement was controlled. Marcus's heart was beating so hard he thought it might break through his chest. At the top of the stairs, there was a long hallway. Several doors lined both sides. One of the doors was open slightly. Light came from inside. Marcus and the colonel exchanged looks. They had no words, but they understood each other. This was a room. Marcus pushed the door open. What he saw made time stop. Prince Edward was sitting on a bed in the middle of the room. He was alive. He was safe. But his small face was covered with tears. His eyes were wide and frightened. He was holding a stuffed animal so tightly that his hands were white. Standing near the window was the Queen. She was staring out at the valley below. She was very still. She hadn't even turned around when the door opened. In her hand, she held a small bottle. It looked like medicine. It looked like poison. "Your Majesty," Colonel Davis said carefully, "please step away from the window." The Queen still didn't turn around. "I was going to save him," she said quietly. Her voice sounded broken, like glass that had been stepped on. "Do you understand? I was going to save him. I was going to save all of them." "Your Majesty, we need you to come with us," the colonel said. "He is not the real prince," the Queen continued, still looking out the window. "You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it, but nobody says it. Nobody is brave enough to say it." Prince Edward began to cry harder. Marcus walked slowly toward the boy. He kept his movements gentle and calm. He didn't look at the Queen. He only looked at the child. "It's okay," Marcus whispered to Prince Edward. "I'm here now. You are safe." Marcus reached down and picked up the boy. Prince Edward held on to him with his small arms. The stuffed animal dropped to the floor. The boy was shaking with fear and cold and the terrible things he had seen. "Captain Sterling," the Queen's voice came. She had finally turned around. "You believe me, don't you? You know the truth about this boy." Marcus looked at her. He saw an old woman. He saw a grandmother. But he also saw someone broken inside, someone whose mind had been twisted by fear and sickness and things he could not understand. "I see Prince Edward," Marcus said calmly. "I see a 5-year-old boy who is frightened and who needs protection. That is all I see." "You're lying," the Queen said, but her voice was weaker now. The anger was leaving it. "No, Your Majesty, I am telling the truth." The Queen looked down at the bottle in her hand. She looked at it for a long time, as if she didn't understand what it was, as if it had appeared there by magic. "I was going to make him sleep," she said. Her voice was very sad. "I was going to make all the lies go away. I was going to wake up the world." Colonel Davis moved closer to her very slowly. One step, another step, like someone approaching a wild animal. "Your Majesty, I need you to give me that bottle. Please." The Queen looked at the colonel. For a moment, there was something in her eyes, a flicker of understanding, a moment of clarity. In that moment, she seemed to see what she had almost done. She seemed to understand the sickness in her own mind. "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, God, what have I done?" Her hand opened. The bottle fell to the floor and rolled under the bed. Colonel Davis caught her as her legs gave way beneath her. She collapsed into his arms like a person who had been holding up a heavy weight for a very long time and finally could let it go. The other guards moved into the room. One of them called on the radio to the king's car, which was only minutes away. Marcus held Prince Edward close. The boy was still shaking, but he was alive. He was safe. He was going to be okay. Where's the crown prince? Marcus asked one of the guards. In the living room downstairs, sir. He's fine. He didn't see what happened in here. This was good news. The crown prince, Prince Edward's father, had been kept away from the terrible scene. The boy's mother was in the capital with her other children. They had been protected from this darkness. The sound of cars came from outside. The king had arrived. Within minutes, the summer house was filled with people. Doctors, guards, officials. The king came straight to the room where his mother sat on the floor, held by Colonel Davis. She was crying, not angry tears, but sad tears. The tears of someone who was finally understanding what her sickness had made her do. The king knelt beside her. "Mother," he said. His voice was full of pain. "I'm sorry," the queen whispered. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what is wrong with my mind. I don't know why I believe such things. I'm so sorry." The king put his arms around his mother. He held her like she had once held him when he was a child, like a parent holds a child who is sick and afraid. Marcus watched this scene from across the room, still holding Prince Edward. The boy's crying had stopped. He was calm now. He was safe. "Thank you," the crown prince said to Marcus. He had come into the room. His face was pale but relieved. "You saved my son." Marcus nodded. He had done his duty. He had protected the child. But the cost of the protection, the cost of the family, to the kingdom, to everyone, was only now beginning to be understood. The summer house, which had seemed so peaceful that morning, had become a place where a family's deepest sickness had finally been revealed. And nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months had passed since the day at the summer house. 6 months of silence. 6 months of healing. 6 months of learning how to move forward when the ground beneath you has been broken. Captain Marcus Sterling sat in his small palace room, looking at a letter in his hands. The letter was official. It had the royal seal. It was from the king himself. Marcus had read it 5 times already, but he still could not believe it was real. The letter said many things. It thanked him for his bravery. It thanked him for his loyalty. It thanked him for making a choice that saved a life. And it told him that his service to the palace was no longer required. He was being released from his duties. He was free. But the letter also said something else. It said he would receive a medal. It said his name would be written in the history of the palace. It said he would be remembered as a hero. A hero. Marcus had never thought of himself that way. He had only done what was right. He had only protected a child. He had only made the choice that his heart told him to make. But the world called this heroic. The newspapers had found out about what happened at the summer house. They always did. Within days, the story was everywhere. Royal Guard saves Prince from Queen's madness. Hero of the palace stops royal tragedy. Captain Sterling, the man who protected the crown. Marcus had hated the attention. He had wanted to hide, but he could not hide. The story was too big. The truth was too important. The truth, that sickness could touch anyone, that even powerful people could break, that sometimes the real strength came not from power, but from caring for someone who was suffering. The Queen had been taken to a special hospital. It was a hospital for people whose minds were sick. The best doctors in the country treated her. The doctors said she had an illness that affected her thinking. It was not her fault. It was not something she had chosen. It was simply something that happened to her brain. She was getting better. Slowly, very slowly, but she was getting better. The king visited her every week. He sat with her. He held her hand. He told her stories about her grandchildren. He helped her remember who she really was. Not a woman with wild thoughts and dark fears, but a grandmother who loved her family. The Queen remembered now. She remembered the summer house. She remembered trying to hurt Prince Edward. She remembered the terrible things she had believed, and remembering made her cry. It made her sad in a way that was different from anger. It was a sadness of someone who finally understood the damage they had almost caused. "I don't know who I was," she had said to the king one day. "That woman in the summer house. That wasn't me, but it was me, and I don't know how to forgive myself for that." "You forgive yourself," the king had said, "by getting better, by being the woman you really are again. By loving the people who love you. Prince Edward was doing well. The 5-year-old boy had been given special help. Doctors who knew how to talk to children about scary things. At first, he had nightmares. He would wake up crying in the night. But slowly, the nightmares became less frequent. Slowly, he began to laugh again. Slowly, he returned to being a normal, happy child. His father, the Crown Prince, spent more time with him. They played together in the gardens. They read stories. They built things with blocks. They were healing together. The father and the son, learning that the world was safe again. One day, Prince Edward asked his father about the Queen. "Is grandmother sick?" the boy asked. "Yes," his father said, "but she is getting better." "Will she come back?" "Yes. When she is ready, she will come back, and she will be the grandmother you know again, the real grandmother." Prince Edward seemed to understand this in the way that children understand important things. And he smiled, and Captain Marcus Sterling had received an offer. The king wanted him to stay, not as a regular guard, but as something different, as a personal security advisor to Prince Edward, as a man responsible for the boy's safety and protection. It was a great honor. It was a position of real power and importance. But Marcus had chosen to refuse. "I am honored, Your Majesty," he had told the king, "but I must leave the palace." "Why?" the king had asked. "You have been given everything. Position, honor, respect." "Because," Marcus said, "I have learned something important. I learned that I cannot protect people by standing guard over them. Real protection comes from being honest. Real safety comes from truth. And I cannot stay in a place where truth is hidden behind walls of secrets." The king had understood. He had nodded slowly. "You are a good man, Captain Sterling," the king had said, "perhaps too good for this place." So Marcus was leaving the palace. He would start a new life, a simpler life. He would work in a school as a security officer. He would protect children in a way that was open and honest. He would teach young people about safety and courage. He would tell them that real heroes are not the people with the biggest titles. Real heroes are the people who make brave choices when no one is watching. The night before he left, Prince Edward came to say goodbye. The boy was holding his hand. They stood together looking out over the palace gardens, the same gardens where Marcus had walked 1,000 times. "Will you come back?" Prince Edward asked. "I will visit," Marcus said, "but I will not live here anymore." "Thank you," the boy said, "for saving me." Marcus knelt down to the boy's level. He put his hand on the small shoulder. "You saved yourself," Marcus said. "You stayed brave. You stayed strong. You waited for help. That is the real bravery." Prince Edward hugged him tightly. When Marcus left the palace the next morning, he did not look back. He walked through the gates and into the world beyond. The world was big and uncertain, but it was honest. It was real. Behind him, the palace stood in the sunlight, beautiful and powerful and full of secrets. The queen was getting better. The king was loving his mother. Prince Edward was healing. And the royal family was learning that real strength did not come from hiding the truth. It came from facing it. It came from protecting the innocent. It came from making brave choices. It came from caring more about doing the right thing than about protecting your own safety. Captain Marcus Sterling had understood this. And the world, the real world beyond the palace walls, would remember him for it. In the years that followed, Prince Edward would grow. He would become a good man. He would remember the guard who saved him, and he would try to live his life with the same courage and honesty that Marcus had shown. The queen would recover. She would spend time with her grandchildren. She would become the grandmother they knew again, and she would spend the rest of her life grateful that she had been given a second chance. The king would learn that sometimes protecting his family meant telling the truth, even when it was painful, even when it was difficult, even when the whole world would know. And Marcus Sterling would live a quiet life, knowing that he had done the right thing, knowing that he had saved a child, knowing that his choice had mattered, knowing that sometimes being a hero means simply standing between darkness and innocence and refusing to move.